Yes, ladies and gentlemen, episode 120 of Pokemon Horizons titled Dot and Penny Secret Mission just dropped, and in this episode, Dot and Penny infiltrate the Exceed Museum to get data on Laquium. How does it go? Let's talk about it. We start this episode. Dot is outside the Brave Volivine getting ready to leave. Liko and Roy and Alt are all worried about her and tell her to contact them if things get hairy, but they trust her, especially since, as Dot points out, this needs to be a very covert mission and only her and Penny know how to hack. When Dot and Penny arrive at the museum, we see Dot in a pink frilly outfit. Why? Well, she's way too well known around these parts to be wearing her regular clothes. We also see here, when Gimmighoul accidentally falls over, that it has collected a ton of coins. Penny thinks it's well over 900, and we learn that Gimmighoul actually keep count of how many coins they specifically have. They get to the museum 30 minutes before closing and hide in the 5th floor. They were given a set of instructions by Cervantes, letting them know which floor had cameras and which floor had guard Pokemon, and after the museum is closed for the day, they get out and begin trying to get into the data center. They start by first hacking the camera so it's disabled. They put a fake image of the area there. Then, they head to the next floor where the guard Pokemon are, and they take out the guard Pokemon, but that sounds the alarm to the explorers who have signals to detect whether the guard Pokemon are moving or not. While they're doing this, Gimmighoul gets out of Dot's Pokeball, and it wants to look for its coin, but Dot tells it they're busy. Then they arrive near the elevator. There, they'd set up a time with Cervantes where he could remotely unlock the elevator, and that takes them to the server room. When they get there, it is a massive room with a ton of data, so they need to get cracking. Penny and Dot then begin working together to hack it, while their Pokemon are staying in guard. Meanwhile, Gimmighoul decided to head back up the museum to look for coins. That's when Indi and Rubella arrive due to the suspicion from the security. They spot Dot's Gimmighoul just as Dot and Penny finish the hacking. They're ready to leave when they notice that Gimmighoul isn't there. When they head back to the museum, they spot Indi and Rubella. They were both being controlled by Gimmighoul to find a coin, and Indi had almost put in one, but it's interrupted by Penny and Dot arriving. Then, as they get ready to make a run for it, in front of them arrives Chalce. This then turns into a battle. Everyone brings out their Pokemon. Indi and Rubella with Drapion and Scolipede, Chalce with her Medicham and Xatu, and Penny brings out her Jolteon. Indi and Rubella use the Strong Spheres on their Pokemon, and Chalce uses it on her Medicham. At first, Penny and Dot are able to hold off well due to their type advantages. When the poison moves come about, Dot has her Tinkaton block it, and Penny is able to use electric moves from Jolteon to do massive damage to Xatu. They have great synergy and type advantage currently. This, however, turns when Chalce decides to split him up. She does this by having Xatu teleport to kidnap Gimmighoul, who's looking around for coins. She then keeps teleporting around the room to cause Dot to chase her before she hits a button that caused the room to split with fire shutters. So now, the type advantage that our heroes had from earlier is gone. Penny has to deal with poison types, which is super effective against her Sylveon, and now Dot has to deal with Chalce's Medicham, which is super effective against her Tinkaton. Dot is in a bad spot here. She tries to get Tinkaton to charge her hammer, but Xatu teleports in front of it and uses Aerial Ace on it to prevent it. It then uses Teleport to get away from Liquidation from Quaxwell, which accidentally hits Tinkaton. Dot then tries comboing a Brutal Swing into a Gaetan Hammer, but in the last moment, Chalce has Xatu use Power Swap to take Tinkaton's attack before attacking back. This causes Quaxwell to be distracted and get hit by Axe Kick. Then, as both of Dot's Pokemon are down for the count, Chalce says Medicham attack, only for Gimmighoul to jump in front of it and get hit. This distracts Dot, and Chalce uses this as the opportunity to teleport Xatu towards Dot and take her phone to take the data back. Dot is in a bad position, but she can't run away here, and she knows that. She then notices Gimmighoul pointing at a coin in the corner over and over again. Dot realizes what Gimmighoul is asking about and decides to bet on it. She has it distract Chalce and her Pokemon by having it use Astonish before grabbing the coin from the corner and throwing it at Gimmighoul. As it lands on Gimmighoul's chest, it seems like that was coin 1000 because Gimmighoul begins evolving. Gimmighoul becomes a Goldango. After it evolves, you notice how much faster Goldango is because the first thing it does is fly towards Chalce and grab back Dot's phone. It then picks up both Quaxwell and Tinkaton. Dot recalls them before deciding to trust Goldango and get on its surfboard. The surfboard here is awesome. She gets away from Chalce's Pokemon before using Good as Gold to break through the wall where Penny is. There, we see that Penny actually defeated Indi and Rubella's Pokemon soundly despite having a type disadvantage. Dot then picks up Penny on the surfboard and they begin leaving the museum. We get an awesome action shot here as they break through the glass to get out of the museum. Chalce says that at this point, even with the data, they won't be able to do much. But still, they have gotten away with the data. Dot drops off Penny, who says she'll give the data to Jacques to research before they head their separate ways. Finally, she returns to the ship. Everyone happy to see her back, and also able to see Goldango here. They leave the area they're in for the night just for safety, and then the next morning, we see Dot going through her data, showing how the Laquium sphere is made and also confirming the existence of the Laquium core. However, that is secondary as she gets a call. It's Freed, once again. He says he's returning. From where? Base. And that's where we end this episode. This is a really fun episode. It was structured almost like a heist movie. Our heroes break into an area, take out the guards, and hack their way in, but the escape goes wrong as always. I thought this episode would be really about Dot because the previous episodes really have been focused on Roy and Liko, but this episode was more about Gimmighoul than Dot. The primary focus is the intrusion and the battle itself, but Gimmighoul doesn't really get involved until the very end after it evolves into a Gholdengo. Gholdengo is one of my favorite Pokemon from Paldea. It's such a cool Pokemon, and I'm glad that out of all the characters possible, Dot got it. She isn't a battler, so it's not like we're going to see it all the time, so anytime we do get to see it used, it's going to be a kind of a treat. It also can be used as a transportation Pokemon now, allowing Roy, Liko, and Dot to have one each, so now they won't be as reliant on the Brave Olivine. Hopefully that can open up some opportunity for some cool stuff, but the anime's never really taken advantage of that. The only weird thing about this episode was just the setup for it, and mainly I'm just talking about how the explorers are set up. Why are Indi and Rubella hanging out in the security guard room just watching video? Who does that? Aren't they supposed to be one of the top 2 grunts? It makes no sense unless somehow they were tipped off or knew that something was going to happen. There was no indication of that in this episode. It just feels so contrived just for the sake of plot. Other than that though, a really good episode, with our 3 heroes now each having one of their Pokemon evolved. The story is going to focus on the return of Freed, and I'm curious to see where the story goes from here. Why was he in space? How did he get there? What did he find out? All that and much more in the future. But for now, what about you guys? What did you guys think about this episode? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit the like button if you liked it, subscribe for more, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.